Welcome to the Prevail Over Cancer Podcast, where we take a metabolic approach to help guide you on preventing, prevailing, and striving over cancer.
We are live on the Prevail Over Cancer Podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Jeff Lopes, with my partner here, Keith Bishop. Today we are going to be talking about cancer in general and the increase. It's just something where every time I see a stat, my jaw drops. Since pretty much 2019, it feels like the cancer rate year by year is just going higher and higher and higher and higher in individuals under 50, which even makes it more scary because most of the prep tests that we in society look at is do a test after 50, do a test after this age. And reality, the increase in cancer rates for the young individuals is just skyrocketing right now.
Right.
And we're going to just break down what our thoughts are and what possible reasons for this, and try to have a better understanding to give you, our audience, a better options on preventing this from happening to yourselves, or if you do have it, to prevail over it. So let's just start talking about this. And since 2019, the number has been crazy, and a lot of people, I mean, there's conspiracy theories. Are they real? Or are they not? Or is it linked to the COVID vaccine? Is it linked to people for almost a year and a half to 2 years sitting their ass at home and drinking more and eating more junk food and taking more takeout because all the restaurants were closed and people didn't want to be in public and go to grocery stores, so they're just ordering food in and being more sedentary and not working out. So let's just break it down. Where's your mindset? And every time you look at these numbers, like what are you thinking when you see these numbers, being something that this is your field, this is what you do for a living?
Right. So I've been doing this since, actually, I found a recent record since 2006 was, I think, one of my first cancer consults. And so, matter of fact, I was in contact with her just the other day. So, and I looked up her records and go, oh, wow, 2006. So I've been doing this for a while. And I've seen, of course, I get to see definitely a lot of people with cancer. And at first, I'd have to say that, it's always been around. Yes. The biggest change is probably the younger people. And so the past year, I've had more people that are under 40, and that is what is different. And so the senior citizen, my age group, 60s, definitely I've seen that. I can't say it's any worse from what I've seen, just from my little tiny focus, my little world. But then when we start looking at the broader statistics, looking at North America, the U.S., European numbers are more difficult to get. Those are smaller countries, and they may not allow that data to be published as much, evidently. But it's more difficult to get their data. But it's similar, to the U.S. data. But there's, it's always been around, and there's certain things that, can impact that. Of course, you said 2019, what happened 2019. And so we all know that COVID-19 and the virus infection. Matter of fact, viruses, I'm going to look over here to a screen, but, just to make sure I get all this right. But viruses, increase the risk of many cancers. And so there's the Epstein-Barr virus related to lymphomas and stomach cancers and pharyngeal cancers, hepatitis B, liver cancer, hepatitis C, liver cancer, HIV, several different cancers, including non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, herpes viruses, all kinds of sarcomas and cancers and cervical cancer, sexual reproduction cancers, human lymphotropic virus, leukemia, lymphomas, Merkel cell. Matter of fact, a doctor friend of mine recently diagnosed, actually over a year ago now, diagnosed. He's doing very well, but Merkel cell polymyrovirus virus. So viruses have a tendency to, alter DNA and inject things into our body. And so part of that, and matter of fact, a couple of years ago, I was at a conference when we finally things opened up and went to a medical conference. Oh, it's so nice to be with colleagues and sit in an auditorium and visit, not have the mask on and things like that. And then a couple of younger people stood up and it's like, they got breast cancer that's like crazy. I mean, like super aggressive. And although, once again, I had a young friend, before COVID, many years before COVID, she had a very aggressive breast cancer as a young person. So I can't say it's that, but then she was blaming it on COVID. And in my mind, I thought, or on the vaccine. Let's be more specific, and on it, turbo cancer or something like that. And I thought, oh well, that's just a conspiracy, theory. So and we'll learn, from time. But there is actually some research behind, even the COVID virus, and actually more specifically the spike, actually has some potential cancer concerns. So one of those.
Let's break that down before you get into more detail. Let's break that down. So for people to understand, when you're dealing with a virus like COVID, and we'll get into the whole conspiracy theory of the vaccine. We'll dive into all these things and just get better understanding, right? Because we'll get into that. There's a lot to kind of unwrap there. But when you're looking at a virus, our main job to avoid cancer is to keep our immune system as strong as possible.
Yes.
That's why we're eating our berries and our healthy foods and our greens, and we're taking our vitamins, and we're trying to sleep right, and we're trying to exercise. It's the whole goal of everything I do every day is to keep my immune system strong. And to be honest, knock on wood, since I've been diagnosed with cancer November 23rd of 2022, I have not been, knock on wood, I haven't had a day I've been sick. I have not had a cold because my immune system is so bloody strong. Once you have a virus, it's bringing your immune system down. And now that allows these cells to go rogue in your body, because your body can't, it's trying to fight this cold, and it's not really helping other things in your body to keep strong. So understanding that in general, a virus, a cold, is not a good thing for your immune system, because it doesn't allow your body to defend or beat other things it needs to be focused on. Am I correct with that?
Well, I don't know. I kind of view, of course, we've been around viruses and colds and flu and things like that for years. Um, I, I I actually view viruses and colds as an immune stimulant.
Interesting. Okay.
And so cancer cells actually have what's called a heat shock protein.
Yeah.
And whenever we, put our body into a high temperature situation, it actually ramps up our immune system to fight that infection. And so, or get rid of cells, or just kind of generally ramp it up. So that's the purpose of you and I both doing our saunas.
Saunas, yeah.
Okay. And getting the temperature up. So I'm pushing my temperature, till I'm almost 101 degrees of world temperature. And so, matter of fact, I can do it better now. And so I'm physically more healthy. And so, at 102 is when we start seeing some definite anti-cancer impacts. But so in other words, when I have a cold or the flu, I'm not taking aspirin or Tylenol to knock that temperature down. We want our immune system to fight that infection. So I don't know about, saying that a cold would weaken us or not, or the flu even. It's just part of our natural type thing. Now we're having to fight some potentially not natural viruses on a frequent basis. Now that creates some concern. So actually, the inflammation associated with COVID infections and or the vaccine is one of those potentially driving factors. So the swelling, if you want to think of swelling, inflammation, redness, like a red nose, the histamine, things like that are produced, those can be cancer drivers. And so therefore,
explain that, break that down. Explain that.
So with, for example, COVID or a cold, let's say a cold, that red nose histamine is released.
Yes.
And that's the runny nose, the red nose. That is that is actually an irritant and increases the risk of cancers. So histamine, the allergic reaction and the inflammation that happens with that, it's swollen, difficult to breathe, coughing and sneezing, itchiness. Those are concerning things that do increase the risk of cancer growth. So COVID, one of the major issues is the inflammation that was actually impacting the lungs, and or the athlete at the beginning that lost his leg due to clotting factors being activated due to inflammation in his body. So that inflammation is definitely a concern. That's one of the things that they're looking at for COVID is that inflammation. As a matter of fact, almost all of the major side effects of COVID and the vaccine are related to inflammation. So IL, interleukin, and there's several a series of those. A few are good and several are bad. If day in and day out increases the risk of cancer. So, matter of fact, how many times do we have? Normally we have a cold season. We have a few months cold and flu. That's about it. But now we've got this COVID thing going around continuously, and
So
every few months we're having to deal with that again. So so that's just going to be part of it. But anyway, so I'm not that concerned about colds, but they just repeat it over.
So inflammation in your body.
Exactly. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So I was going through some stats today, and I just pull up stats right from 2019, but it's you don't know what numbers are true. Some stats are saying 36, and I read up to 51% increase in cancer since 2019.
For some cancers, yes.
Mm-hmm. And then I'm reading a 52 to up to 61% increase in individuals under 50, which is just mind-boggling. So if you look at 2024, Canadian Cancer Society, or their numbers are estimating, and I read this and my jaw dropped, 675 individuals every single day in 2024 will be diagnosed with cancer. This is Canada.
Mm-hmm.
241 deaths a day due to cancer in Canada. And that's you're looking at 700,000 people are going to be diagnosed. This is Canada. I'm going to go through the US stats, and you're looking at close to 300,000 deaths due to cancer this year in Canada. We go to the US, they're looking at north of 2 million diagnoses for 2024, and you're looking at just under 650,000 deaths due to cancer this year. Mm-hmm. Those numbers are your jaw drops, because if you look at stats from even 15, 20 years ago compared to like heart disease or other stuff like that, it was a big gap. Cancer is quickly catching up or surpassing most of these things. Mm-hmm. So when you see these numbers and somebody that's in the field, are you relating it to certain things where we talk about all the time? Is it really the diet, what we're putting in our bodies? Like, is it like, where are you going with these numbers? And then we'll talk about the vaccines and all that, but where are you going with these numbers, and why are they increasing so much in youth?
So I think the youth issue is, and even kind of like this, well, we have the virus issue, and so people didn't see the doctor. So we're going to definitely see a higher rate for a couple of years. Matter of fact, some of my clients, that was the case. They didn't see somebody when they first started having symptoms.
Yeah.
So that by the time they're diagnosed, it's a later stage. So that's a definite issue. But the younger people, there's basically two major groups that are having significant increases, and that's going to be youth or younger people. Let's put it that way, not children at all, but younger people, and darker skinned people, and so people of color. And so when I'm looking at the U.S. statistics, about African American, Hispanic, Native American. A lot of those rates are going up much higher. I mean, it is amazing, especially Native American. And okay, so I'm going back and thinking, so why would that be? But part of it has to do, and it's all coming back to a lot of our daily choices, of the food and lifestyle, and things that we're doing. And so even like colorectal cancer, definitely part of that is the foods, just prepared foods and the junk food and the lifestyle and the soda pops and things like that. So that's a significant issue. So, and especially even for the Native Americans, although they're for a large part, very well integrated into our society, but genetically, they may be more sensitive to, and they have actually much higher rates of diabetes. And so some of the tribes, in the United States, have like almost a 100% risk of diabetes because they're not eating the foods that their race has eaten for thousands of years.
Yeah.
And so now they're doing the junk food type things. And diabetes, blood sugar elevated is a risk factor, but so is the body fat makes that inflammation chemical. And so that's going to be a problem too. So it's kind of it is the daily type things going on. Definitely. And so the things we talk about on these podcasts, on the social media posts, the things that you and I are doing, trying to educate people that day in and day out, that is definitely probably the number one factor, driving this.
Why isn't our government putting more attention towards this? Is it because they have they realize the impact? Is it going back to pharmaceutical companies where billions of dollars they're spending? Like when I look at, there's not enough awareness, there's not enough ads, there's not enough commercials, there's me and you and a handful of individuals promoting it and pushing it, but we don't have the impact. We don't have that volume. Why are individuals that have a bigger platform, or why is the government not talking about this and saying, hey, look at the numbers, look at the increase, like we're getting people dying on a regular basis because of this, and it's just going up. Here are preventative actions, here's stuff, let's talk about it more. And it feels like when you're dealing with something like myself, when you get diagnosed, you deal with oncology, the doctors are not educated enough.
Right.
And it's just, you sit there and they're like, oh, we talked about this, and I've mentioned this on numerous occasions where my oncologist looked at me and said, don't change your diet, don't change nothing, not even knowing what I was eating. And I was eating decently healthy, I thought I was.
Mm-hmm.
I did a lot of carnivore diets and dumb stuff. But he literally just says, hey, let's work with science. Science meaning chemo. Don't change your lifestyle. Don't change your diet. Don't change nothing you're doing. Let's just attack this thing. And that's what most people are doing when they get diagnosed, is they're listening to oncologists, which are not educated enough to understand how to increase our immune system, how to boost it, how to strengthen it, how to defend us, how to fight from this cancers. So when you're looking at this, do you see any change? As the numbers are increasing, you working in this field on a full-time basis, do you see any from the government side or anything from other aspects really helping push this and being like, hey, bring this? They're not.
No, that's right. There's not at all. The president says, oh yes, we're going to do this or that, but it is such all the special interest groups and manufacturers and money's involved. It's just nobody's willing to do it. And in this, it's a learning process too. So, drinking out of all the politicians walk around with that cup of coffee, drinking it out of a plastic cup, and they don't know, they're not making enough of a change. And not until we get probably a politician that has a history of cancer, that has struggled with that can get into a major position, we just won't see a change with that. And I just don't see it. So, yeah,
And people, I mean, reality is you're looking at two aspects, right? You're dealing with the food industry. When you break that down to fast food industry, where McDonald's and all these billion-dollar companies are promoting their crap, and then you're dealing with the Kellogg's and Nabisco and all these brands that are billion-dollar companies pushing their crap. And as long as they keep pushing their stuff, the pharmaceutical companies are all profiting because everybody's getting sick. So it's just a vicious cycle. And
it is
all
right.
these big brands are profiting because they have a board of directors that have to have their numbers. And the end result, everything is increasing when it comes to the cancer and other diseases, diabetes. We could talk about other stuff, but let's focus on cancer. And as long as these people are still making money, nothing matters.
That's right. But that's where we have to share this information. We have to share this with our friends, with our family. Although we have a saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. But we definitely want to give them that opportunity again and again and again. My horse didn't drink water, 2 hours ago. I'm taking her back, to give her another opportunity, to try to help her and teach her. So same thing with, whether it be my clients, or coworkers, family, friends, we just have to keep sharing that information in our group. And then, these podcasts, we have to share this information with other people. So, send a link, whatever you need to do, from this program, share it with other people and download it, help it become popular. But we've got to share this information so that enough people. So it has to be more of I guess I'm not a big fan of government intervention anyway. I'm extremely conservative. I don't like the government getting involved, but we have to be smart enough to know what to do.
Yeah.
And so, we do have to learn. Not everybody has that ability or the time. Like the doctors don't have the time. They're working, they have family, they went through that training. They're just kind of like anybody else. We have a blinder on, and that's all we can see. We're not going to see this other stuff over here, because we're concentrating on that. So it takes a different kind of a person to open that up and learn and make changes. And we got to share that with people.
I'm gonna put the video on. I'll put the video on this, and I just wanted to bring a couple of things where when you have in North America, Canada, US, let's focus on this right now because that's where we're both from. It's cheaper for a family to go through a drive-through than it is to eat a healthy meal. That's a damn problem. Because the grocery prices, and I'm talking about Canada, are increasing every single week. Whether it's fruits or vegetables or healthy, anything that's good for you seems to be increasing. And then when you go on the flyer, what's on sale, it's your cereals, it's your junk. And then you're dealing with individuals like I think the CEO of Kellogg's trying to convince people with ads where cereal is a healthy choice for dinner now for families. You ever see that ad?
No.
Google it. I'm going to put it on here. I'm going to put it on
really?
here. Google it after we're done, Keith. And the CEO of Kellogg's was on either CNN or one of those things and being interviewed, and they're starting to promote with commercials where he's trying to make Americans or North Americans stating that a bowl of cereal will cost you $1.50, whatever he's saying, and it's a lot more cost efficient for families that need to save money to have a bowl of cereal that are struggling. It'll be more cost efficient. They're getting all their vitamins and nutrition out of it, and it's a healthier choice having a bowl of cereal for dinner than having a meal. When you see that, it's mind-blowing. Mind-blowing that you're hearing these things when everybody that has any understanding of the health industry understands that cereal is not good for you. 99% of these cereals are not good for you. And they're all processed. They're all full of sugar. They're all full of crap. They're all made with seed oils. They're horrible for you. And when you're having a CEO of $1 billion company on massive platforms, and you're dealing with a huge amount of people, individuals, and I'm throwing just wild numbers out there, 60-70% of people probably have no idea of actually what to eat and what's healthy for you.
Yeah.
And you're dealing with this, and they're seeing on national TV somebody saying, "Hey, I could save money and I could be healthy by having a bowl of cereal." Guess what? I'm having that bowl of cereal with my kids for dinner, and that's what's happening.
Right.
And there's no one putting a stop to it. There's no one putting a stop to it.
Right. But that's where, well, we just have to keep sharing it, and once again, I'm not a big fan of government intervention. Europe is more government intervention and healthier. They grow things healthier. They're more organic. There can be some advantages to some basic guidelines,
Yes.
and type of thing. So, I'm, but we just have to let people know in the meantime. And matter of fact, it's kind of curious that you mentioned that. I'd love to see that video.
If you Google it,
Yeah.
I'm going to put it. I'll post it on this. But when you
put a link on that,
yeah. But when you can just Google it, and it's your jaw drops when you see that interview. And there's more.
Yeah.
There's so many more of them out there, right? I mean, the bare fact that individuals are using, God, I can't even think of the name right now. What's that name? That drug everybody's using, all the celebrities, for weight loss.
Oh, the semaglutide.
No. It's a drug that everybody's using. It was originally for it's another purpose of it, but every celebrity is on it now for weight loss.
Yeah, well, it's the generic term is semaglutide.
Okay.
Yeah, so I won't say the brand name. I don't.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Semaglutide, is very popular, and as a matter of fact, it is unbelievable how unpopular that is. And remember, there's lawsuits involved because generic companies and other companies from outside the U.S. are starting to ship it in and sell it illegal and stuff like that. There's all kinds of things on that. So
because celebrities are pushing it.
yes, that's right. Yeah,
how crazy is that?
Yes.
How
so
crazy is
that?
that?
So we do need that individual or a group of individuals to step up and be healthier. There have been a few that have done that, and they've been classified as being a conspiracy person and things like that, and which is unfair because they're just actually presenting, here's the data, about this health issue or autism and diabetes and things like that. So, but we just have to, I'm just sharing that every chance I get, with the audience, with my coworkers, with my family, my friends, and it's making a difference. In my small group, and that's making a difference, and that's what we have to do at this time until we can get somebody that is well known, that is a leader, that can step up and say, okay, this is what we need to do. And we may be coming to a crisis point with these numbers on cancer. That might be sad that takes that, but maybe we'll see some changes.
You threw a word in there, a conspiracy theory, a couple words in there. Let's talk about the vaccine.
Okay.
And I went down rabbit holes for the last year, and there is obviously no proof, but there is a lot of conspiracy theories and people talking about it. And you have medical doctors that work for the government that have just slipped out certain things in interviews, and I actually reposted a couple of them that were linking the vaccine to, and there has been case mortality, like the increase has been incredible since 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And the increase of cancer has been incredible since 2019. And a lot of people link it back to the vaccine, and whether it's conspiracy theory or not, no one's going to really know, and no one's going to know for a while.
Right.
So where's your mindset coming from the pharmaceutical world, being a pharmacist? Where's your mindset when, how do I word this properly? When something is pushed upon people not knowing the end result, and now we're seeing certain results that could be linked, could not be linked, and I'll explain what I mean by not linked when we talk about sedentary life and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that's happened in the last 3 years, 4 years, but could there be a link? That's probably the easiest way. Could there be a link from the COVID vaccine to increasing cancers?
There is a possibility, yes.
Yeah.
And but I have to say in the same breath, literally, the COVID virus itself
Yeah.
has that same thing. And so the spike that attaches to the cell, you know, that also decreases what's called P53, which is a cancer controlling gene that we have, and it actually keeps it from working as good. And so, and that may be part of the how it works. It decreases how well the immune system takes care of stuff that's not supposed to be in our body. So it decreases that. That is one of those driving factors, along with inflammation. So I can't say it's going to be the vaccine necessarily, but the COVID itself and spike are a problem. Now the vaccine was part of that spike, and then they did evidently add some RNA, that has a tendency to be related to some cancers to get it to replicate.
What is for
RNA? Oh yes, I'm sorry. RNA is when cells reproduce. RNA is a part of that DNA process of replication. So they actually, from my understanding, they added a little bit of an RNA, from a virus that is more of a cancer type action, but so it would grow and replicate when they put it into the body. So that RNA is a growth chemical, for the virus. Well, that RNA, can get into our DNA, and so
alter our DNA
and alter our DNA.
and
And
be
it
linked to
might be a link to that too. It's going to take years. It's going to be, and people ask me this, it's going to be 10, 15 years before we really get enough good data.
So, I mean, when you're talking about, they call this now the turbo cancer.
Mhm.
And I've been hearing this term quite a bit lately. And when I do hear this term, a lot of times it is linked to the vaccine or the COVID period from 2019 on is the turbo cancer. What, where do, what's your knowledge on that term turbo cancer? And do you believe it's actually, like, when you look at how the cancer is just growing in individuals where they're being diagnosed and like it's literally stage 3, stage 4, like so quickly, what is causing our bodies to not be able to defend it and allowing these cancers to just replicate so quickly, these cells?
Mhm. So yes, the turbo cancer, basically it just means turbo means faster. Like
Yeah, of course, yeah.
it's got a turbocharger to force the fuel in, make it burn
Yeah.
faster and go faster, more horsepower. But then that's what this virus is, that it seems to be, or it's going to be with cancer, that it's growing faster. That one thing I've noticed, I've had several clients that's a little bit different now than I've noticed in the past, was they're diagnosed with one type of cancer, and then a year or two later, now they have 2 or 3 different types of cancers. That is different. I've not seen that, and I don't know if it's just diagnoses are better or what, but my parents had a client just get his pathology report about esophageal cancer. It's like he started off with a different kind of cancer. Now he's also got that. Another client died recently, similar thing. Started off with prostate cancer, and then all of a sudden, he's got esophageal cancer and dies within 2 months. And that's what's different. I haven't seen these multiple cancers before. I've seen metastasis issues from what we believe to be one particular cancer, but not like just a totally different type of a cancer at the same time. And then they're not responding well. So meaning the chemotherapy, the radiation, the cancer cells, all cancer cells have a tendency to adapt to treatments. So, lifestyle foods, supplements, prescription drugs, radiation, chemotherapy, all that kind of thing. Some cancer cells are going to survive and adapt to that. And then when that starts growing, it just goes crazy because there's no natural or synthetic way to keep that growth under control. So I wonder if that's kind of what's going on with this. I don't know. We don't have enough data. There's definitely some cancers are definitely at higher rates. Not all of them, at higher rates, but I'm looking at statistics from 2018. You know, new cancer cases in the United States were 323,000. Rounded, for the year, and then estimated for 2023, 856,000.
And in 2024, you're looking at 2 million.
Yeah. And
Think
so
about that, 800 to
know.
2 million, which is
Yeah,
insane increase.
right. Exactly. And so we don't know, but we have to go back to these basic things, these things that we can do. So, I did the vaccine, I took a couple of those and decided that was it. And
Same with myself. I took 2
yeah,
and be honest, I regret them. I regret it, even though it whether it was linked to my cancer or not. I mean, there's no way anybody will ever know.
right.
But I do regret it because in general, because I've always been the type of person where I don't like putting things in my body. I've always tried to be as natural as possible. And since my diagnosis, I have not had a Tylenol or an Advil in my body. Even I have put not even Pepto-Bismol for my stomach. Like I had to put nothing in my body. I don't put no medication in my body. Whether you could call supplements a form of medication, but besides supplements, I don't put nothing actually pharmaceutically over the counter or behind the counter. I don't put none of that in my body. If I have a headache, I suck it up, I drink water, I rest, and I get rid of my own headaches. So I'm forcing my body to not be dependent on anything anymore drug wise. So when I look at it, and I did take the 2 vaccines, and I mean we're from Canada. We were kind of forced. If you wanted to even go to a gym or go to they twisted your arm and be like, if you want to live, you have no choice. I can't believe they did that. I hope people are smart enough. If this ever happens again, people are smart enough to realize that you should not be controlled.
It will be different next time.
Yeah.
It will be different next time. So, people are more educated and more, I call it critical thinking. They're willing to think through everything better, on that. And so, yes. So, yes, but it's, yes, we did that. And, there's other things I've done. I've drank out of the plastic bottles. We talked about that in one episode. And I breathed the smoke in from too many different sources, and so there's things that we've done, but then there's things that we can do now to help reduce those risks.
I wanted to just on a side note, when you're looking at everybody that's linking the COVID vaccine to the increase in cancer rates, one thing we talked about, I think either at the beginning of this or prior to this podcast, is we also have to look at a period of a year and a half to 2 years in North America where a lot of people were shut down. And when you're shut down, I know in Canada that one thing they kept open and one thing they kept full hours was alcohol, the liquor store. And the increase in alcohol intake, beers or whatever you want to call it, the increase of individuals drinking alcohol, the increase of takeout, because that was the only thing that was really available. People didn't want to go to the grocery store. People are too scared to be around other people. They're putting this fear mongers on people. And when you're looking at the increase of junk food, sedentary lifestyle, people weren't going outside, people weren't working out. In Canada, they shut down the gyms. The one thing, instead of promoting health, they were shutting down gyms. So they were telling people to stay inside, so they weren't getting no vitamin D. So you're looking at people's lifestyles were pretty shitty for a year and a half. So that could be also a massive. Now you're seeing the backlog of all that.
Yeah. So that's the stress is involved and relationships and mental,
relationships.
Issues.
The increase of cancer. I mean, the increase of cancer rates. When you talk about cancer, that is another thing too. The amount of deaths that happen, whether they're COVID or not COVID related, because it felt like everything had a COVID label on. If somebody had a heart attack, if they had COVID, it was COVID related. They were it was a numbers game at that point. So I don't believe half those numbers were true. But when you're looking at still the death numbers during that period, and then when you sit down and relate, and then also the increase of divorces, because all of a sudden husband and wife were side by side all day. So in Canada, the divorce rate went up, the stress levels went up, the death rate went up. So all of a sudden now there's actual links, and we'll talk about this in another topic, another podcast, but there's direct links of if you go through a stressful time in your life, there is links between 15 to 18 months, there is links of increase in cancer, and that is the stress levels. So there's so many other factors that we can look at that are causing this increase of cancer, whether it is a vaccine, whether it's a sedentary lifestyle, whether it was the stress, whether it's anxiety, whether it's our eating patterns, whether it was increase of alcohol, which is increasing your sugar levels. Like there's so many different impacts over the last 3 years. But the fair fact is facts are facts. The numbers are going up, and they're going up rapid, and people are dying faster, and younger people are dying faster. And right now, when you look at young males, the number one death in young males is colorectal cancer. That's what's killing everybody. And it's scary. So people got to go back and listen to the last 10 podcasts or 11 podcasts.
Yes, that's right.
And learn as much as you can and educate yourself and make the changes, as you're saying, to help prevent and change their lifestyle, to have stronger immune systems, to live a longer life, and to be able to have their bodies defend themselves if something does arise.
Right. Exactly. So important. All of those things that, we have to do on a regular basis.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else you want to drop into this increase of cancer rate podcast?
Let's see. Not that I know of, except for it's just frustrating to not know for sure. But then again, we just need to keep making changes, little changes. This is what I'm going to do today. This is what I'm going to do this week. And next week, I'll do something else, make another little change. So we just need to keep making small changes.
And hopefully, the more people are impacted, the more awareness there is to this disease, and the more people are going to talk about it, and the more they're going to bring it to light, and the more people will then research and do their own understanding of how to help prevent this. And hopefully these numbers will eventually tail off and start decreasing with people learning more about the disease and learning how to make the right choices.
Yes, it makes such an impact. Friends of mine are seeing these podcasts and social media posts, and they're going, I didn't know that. And so and so we have to share that with people. If they don't hear it or see it, they're not going to know.
Yeah.
And it's wrong to not share what we know with loved ones.
Yeah.
So we have to do that. And once again, provide that opportunity, even if they don't take advantage of it, but we got to provide that opportunity.
100%. This is awesome, Keith. Like always, this was episode number 12, and a ton of I guess stats and question marks we've kind of left at this point.
I know. That's right. There's a lot of unknowns. That's right.
But at the same time, too, we're giving people the understanding of what the reality is of this disease. And the reality is you have to make changes if you don't want to be one of the stats.
That's right. That's right. And it does make a difference, make these changes.
Appreciate you, buddy.
Okay.
Until next week, buddy.
All right.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay.
Have a good day.
Bye.